just going to start my Instagram. Hi, welcome to EnergyWorks. And if some people are on Zoom, some people are on Facebook, some people are, I'm trying to get everyone on Zoom. But, before we start, if anyone has questions, if anyone's focusing or dealing with something, maybe put it in the chat box so I can address it, during this session. And whatever's coming up, kind of the themes that have been coming up, because usually people on these calls, well, they all are matching. And so welcome to EnergyWorks. And today, we've been going through this whole process of, what is our intention, kind of what comes up in that backspace that creates blocks, that prevents us from getting to where we want to go. And we've been learning kind of how our energy moves with our awareness. What are we aware of? And our attention drives that energy out in space. And so today we're going to be working pictures, and which are a form of intentions and agreements, which I'll talk about. And so if you can donate, you can go to kimberlysimo.com, or I put a link to, just go to my website, kimberlysimo.com. And that would be great, just so that there is greater flow moving between us. And I'll be looking at your intentions. So send me your intentions too, and they'll get a boost here. So let's begin. So today we are talking about pictures. And what an intention is, it's kind of like we have an intention of what we want, where we want to go, what we want to achieve, what we want to do. And I see these as a form of pictures. And a picture, it is what I say is like a program. A picture is also an agreement. And so our pictures are these internal programs that we live our life by. So we talked about, setting intentions, and maybe you want to have an intention, think of an intention, something that you want. And I always say, place it right out in front of your space at the edge of your bubble, and imagine a diamond. And when we place our intention, what do I want? I want healthy relationships where they're in flow, where I'm creating from the greater whole, or I want, a healthy body, whatever your intention is. So just kind of focus on that intention, placing it in the diamond. And you don't have to necessarily see it, because some people can't see, which is fine. It's more about intent. And then just choose a color for that diamond, a color that represents the energy, because that color has a wave, it creates a wave of energy, and that impacts the body. That's why art is so important for us, because when we're looking at even nature, for me, I go out in nature every day, and when I'm looking at that nature, then it creates this wave, the colors, the green, that lime green. Or when you're looking at art, you start to open up, and the heart opens because that wave energy of the color. That's why I always set my intention at a color. It could be several colors too. And so why intentions are important, and I call them pictures, is because things happen to us in our life. And so, for example, we have a program within us. We're programmed by pictures. So we have a past, and what will come up for us is, these pictures of memories, of thoughts, situations of traumas, of good times. And so what happens is, as these pictures come up, we move to every situation, and every moment we come into these moments with our pictures. And these pictures are our agreement with each other. So if we can be very intentional about our intention, what do I want? So when you move into a space or a place, you have to lead with your intention. Because if you don't lead with your intention, what happens is somebody else has their intention. Now you're kind of listening to them, which is fine. You're looking at their intention. You may agree with their intention, you may not agree. But if you don't have an intention of what you want, you'll start to move around their world. Your world will start to fade away. And then they become the sun and you're just orbiting around them. And we all do this at times. You know, we all kind of get programmed out of what we want. And it can happen very easily because, especially with people that have very strong intentions, like if you've been around extremely powerful people, it's their way or the highway. And then we kind of collapse into their field. We kind of have to go along. And a lot of times we won't even claim what it is we want. And we just disappear. And so, you know, today I want to go through and explore kind of when you're going into situations and how to create with people, because we want to create our lives in a very intentional way. So when you have an intention, and if you don't have an intention, it means that you've been programmed out of it along the way somehow. And so, you know, even in a situation, it's kind of asking the question, okay, what do I want out of this? You may not know, that's fine. But even asking that question, actually, it starts to allow you to see, okay, what do I want here? Or what's showing up? Is this something that I like? Is it feel off? Does it not feel right? And so when you start to look at this, it's kind of like, for example, I just had a client and, you know, she's in this relationship. She just met this new person and the person is asking, you know, what does she want in a relationship? What is her intention? What is her pictures? He didn't say, what is your intention? It's kind of, what do you want? And here she starts to talk about all of the things that she wants, her laundry list of what she wants. And when she asked him what he wanted, it was very vague, not much of a response. And but now what happens is that if somebody isn't flowing back kind of in that same way, if there isn't this mutual exchange, you know, then she found herself, you know, going out with this person, and then he started dangling, in a way, pictures to her, dangling kind of a bait. You know, it's like, here's the bait, and he knows her pictures, like, oh, I want to have kids, and this is what I want to do, but the reality in present time wasn't matched or aligned with it. So you have to really watch in situations when somebody starts dangling a picture, because they know your pictures. They know what's important to you. For me, it's collaboration. For me, it's greater whole. And then that picture starts to get dangled in front of me and I think, okay, we're on the same page. And then it kind of turns around and it's like, this is not what I thought or what I imagined. And so when that happens, then, you know, you may believe that there's an agreement that, you know, because they say it, because, you know, this is what you want, you kind of stay in something that a lot of time, you know, the agreement should be lost or let go of. But we stay in it because it's kind of the carrot dangling in front of us, and it kind of keeps us jumping through hoops and keep moving toward that picture, even though that may not be the reality. And that's a form of control. And so, and just be aware of that in your life. You know, it's like for me, when I was younger, I had made this list, a list of pictures, a list of intentions of what I wanted in a guy. It was Italian. It was, it was like this long list. And I left one thing out on that list, but literally that whole list, this was before I was married, that whole list, it was like, oh my God, you meet the person, you feel like the universe is responding, you feel magic because it's like this reflection, like, wow. But you know, it's kind of like we had so much in common, so much was there, except for, you know, he didn't really want to get intimate. And I'm thinking, this is kind of odd, you know, after 6 months. And then you realize that, oh, okay, maybe he's gay or whatever. And I stayed in that long long past I should have. In that 6 months, I should have seen it, acknowledged it. But those pictures were out there. Oh, I want to marry you. Oh, I want to be with you. And then you're thinking there's so many things that match. And, but a one essential thing that doesn't match can, mean that there should be a break in the agreement, that the agreement should end. And so it's important for us in knowing kind of what we want and having a clear intention that our intentions change. And a lot of times what happens is we start to get very attached to these pictures, attached to the intention. Like I couldn't let go in a sense of him, even, it's kind of those relationships you stay in for a long time and you just can't let go because it's like the dream is there. It is what you want. It is what you thought it should be, but the reality is quite not. And so it's very hard to leave a situation like that. But today, I wanted to go over why it is so important to kind of release and change our pictures. Because if we start to attach to our pictures, if we start to hang on to a situation, then what happens is then we get stuck. And then if we get stuck in that, the agreements start to change. We start to feel controlled. We start to, or maybe the other person feels controlled. And we get stuck and there is really no growth. So how do we kind of set kind of new agreements in a new way? The first step, you lead with your intention. What do I want? Sometimes we don't know, but just ask that question. That starts to lead you on a path. And then really this picture is, this is my agreement with this person. So the agreement is, that let's say it is where I see you, you see me, that you see my information, the information, that I'm creating. And this comes from me. And I see your information. And it's kind of, there's an acknowledgement of kind of how you create, how I create. And when we can both see each other, then everyone gets validated. And let's say we collaborate and work together. If this is my information coming through, maybe you're working on something, but both people have to be acknowledged. And if one person stops acknowledging the other person, and I had a client just yesterday even saying at work where every time she, gives, hey, what about this idea? Let's put this idea. What do you think? Kind of let's play together. Let's create this. And everyone is deadpan. And this comes up a lot. And just notice in situations when you kind of throw something out there and we want to throw it out there because we want to play, we want to create. A part of the creative process is this ability to connect with each other, to communicate about it, to generate kind of that yes, and then get energy from it and create something together. But every time she throws it out deadpan, no one acknowledges it, nothing is said. And literally, it could be the next day or even 2 weeks later, they've got the brilliant idea. And then, the person is totally, and I brought this kind of situation up 2 weeks ago, and I said for her, I said, when this happens, because it's very important now that everyone starts to see really what's going on and not get programmed out of your information and pictures. And so I said to her, just say, hey, here's an idea. Instead of, hey, let's play, hey, what do you think of this? Here's what I want to do. Let's do this. I'm going to lead with my intention. This is what's going to kind of happen. Kind of deadpan still, but then somebody says, oh, I have this idea, repeating back her idea. And it's like, then, it's like, in a way you have to correct it. It's kind of like, if they are not willing to play, then it's just like, hey, yeah, this is the idea I brought up. Do you want to join in on this idea? Can we, collaborate on this idea? Because people forget very easily kind of where things come from. And there is so much kind of energy of what's mine, what's yours, and as opposed to a spirit of really creating space. And it's so important when we can really start to open our space. And that's why the heart is important, when we can open our heart. And what it does is it creates the space between me and you. It really creates a place for us to have a space to create in, this playground, this creativity. And you can start to feel this magic between us, this connection, this energy. And then you have the diamond. We've got the diamond right there where, you may say something about your intention. And I see that intention. Just think about your intention. I see that intention. I see, and I add to that intention. Like I'm collaborating on that intention. And then we're validating both of that intention. That is called a matching picture. We've got a match. And when you have a match, it's like, yeah. But what happens, isn't it interesting, especially in relationships, what happens is when you throw out some idea, and I think people just don't realize it because it's such an automatic response, that the response is, hey, look at the beautiful sun. Oh no, it's the moon. And I'm guilty. I remember kind of even when I met my husband, it was like, one person says one thing, the other person says the opposite, until, you really start to see that automatic response. You're trying to create this balance in the relationship because, in a way, sometimes we feel that if we agree with a picture, if we agree with a reality, then we start to disappear. And then we separate and go opposite, if we're only on one side. But the space that I'm talking about is where kind of the opposites are the edge of the space. The positive, the negative. I don't really care about the positive and negative. What I want, what I don't want. Okay, those, you got to lead with it, kind of defines the space, but it creates that edge. But it is this right here. It is this magic. It is this energy. It is this container of what is really in the space. And if you and I can just be together and just occupy the space, and if I can take you even on this journey and you say, hey, yeah, no, I want to go for a walk. And let's go on this cosmic ride. And let's our energies be together, kind of moving through this, feeling what it feels like to get a hello, to get just validation of I see your pictures, you see mine. And we're sharing and occupying really a lot of space. And it's an offering. A picture and an intention is an offering. It's an offering of, hey, what do you think about this? And you don't have to even agree with the picture. You can just look at it. You don't have to agree with it. But ultimately, a picture is extremely important. Kind of an intention is very important because what it does is it creates a boundary of, this is the agreement. It's like giving out information and then somebody stealing it and doing, their thing and they're saying it's theirs. It's an agreement, it's a boundary. And then it's defining kind of what playground we're going to play in. And what it does then, this boundary creates safety. Because what is confusing, and especially if you start to notice in this world, that there's a lot of different pictures. And if you don't have your picture, your intention, what are you focusing on? This is why we have ADD. We're focusing on a million different pictures that are put out there. And it's very interesting because, my one client, the one, at work, super successful career. Then she starts a job at this one place where no one acknowledges her. And if you don't get the hello, if you don't get that acknowledgement, what will happen is you start to doubt yourself. You start to, even in that relationship I was in, I'm like, well, am I attractive? Or, do I need to do something different? And then you start thinking, well, what's their picture? How can I please them? You start getting outer focused and start changing. And what can I do differently? And like my one client who had such a super successful, career. And then this one company would not acknowledge her. And then all of a sudden, total doubt, total confusion. Well, I'm not sure now. I don't really know what I want. And notice when you have confusion in your space, because if you do, you're getting programmed. You're getting programmed out of your information because people really don't know how to play together. They don't know how to collaborate. And, especially in companies, it's kind of like a dog eat dog kind of thing. And if you're not generating ideas, and if it's not yours or whatever, then it's kind of like maybe you're dispensable. So it is this pure kind of response to a situation. And so we want to approach it really in a different way. So an intention is a picture. And that is what we think, what we want. It is a belief. It is a feeling. And it contains energy. It contains information. And what that does is it starts to create a vibration. And that moves energy in between us to create a new agreement. That let's have the intention even be, and the agreement, the picture, that we're going to create a miracle. Just even by being together, that we're in agreement. Our agreements are, we are creators, that we can create miracles. Now, if that is the agreement, then, and if you can't agree, then you don't match that picture. And if you don't match that picture, then people that don't agree will fall away. And if they don't agree, well, they could even be in your life, but, they may, oppose you if they don't match that, or they dump their chaos in you. And, if they're more connected to pain, see, they're in agreement to that. So it's important to kind of see, what are we in agreement with? What is my agreement with this person? Most people are in agreement to a pain picture. I've got some pain. Oh yeah, I got pain. And then they're talking about the pain. And in a way, they're talking about the pain because they don't know how to discharge it. They don't know how to release it. And so what happens is, if I got a bunch of pain, I'm going to talk to you about that and I'm going to dump it. And that way I can release it and create more space. But if you are not in agreement, it's very interesting. I don't know if I said, maybe it was my last class. 2 weeks ago, it was 3 weeks ago, I had this client who was saying, I don't have any jobs. My husband were like, no jobs. And I'm like, yeah, well, change one thing. The one thing you change is stop listening to people's problems. Just say, I'm not in agreement. I'm not in agreement. And I don't talk about that. And I'm in agreement to creating. I'm in agreement to, and then introduce something that you're in agreement to talking about. So at least you give that person some information. Hey, I'm in agreement to creating. I'm in agreement to health. And literally just within a few weeks, she's like so excited. She called, my husband got 3 jobs. It's like this whole new thing opened up in my life from this one thing. Because it's kind of like when you listen to chaos, when you listen to that, you're inviting it in. You become that trash receptacle of it, And so you're saying, I'm the dumps. Come on, I'm open. and and so we want to instead approach each minute. If you don't have kind of, here's my intention for the day. I always start my intention. Like I always walk in the morning, early in the morning, and I start to release. I start to, like what's coming up and start to release what's my intention and, kind of what's the update. I'm vertical. I'm asking God, I'm asking Mother Earth, kind of what is the information you want me to teach today? I mean, this came from what do you want me to teach today? And because it's very important in this time, because maybe it was last Friday is when we had that new moon and the foundation fell. So what happened then is that, and you may be seeing a lot of people in the past show up. And if maybe it's not a person from the past, but you're seeing a lot of pain maybe from your past show up of, old patterns that you thought maybe you handled, but it's rearing, its monster head again of like, really, we're looking at this again. But I want you to embrace that no matter what that pain is, because if you can really embrace that pain and kind of what this looks like, but change the response. If the response can be, you know what, yeah, this really sucks. However, I'm just going to really release this. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to give it to the Mother Earth. I'm going to let go and not get into the conversations about it, get into tit for tat about it. When something is off, what we tend to do is we get into this conversation and he said this, she said this, and then it goes back and forth when you know it's off. And so it's very important. It's kind of like even with this book, that I'm doing, we're not in agreement. So what does that mean? Well, we're not in an agreement to what came up in the contract is there's an issue that we got to go to Singapore. And in Singapore, there is no freedom of speech. I'm like, how is that in the agreement? So that is not an intention of mine. My intention is equal. And in that, there's an agreement. People are seen, people are heard, that information is acknowledged of 20 years of my work. Singapore, I'm not sure where that comes from. I can't be in agreement. So you release, you create space, you let it go, you hand it over, you create more space, and then it gives you this peace and courage to approach your life and respond in a new way. Because here is, these backspace pictures. And what I mean by backspace are these blocks that keep coming up. We all have them, and it is how can we respond to them? And if we can really respond by saying, am I in agreement to this in a neutral way? Okay, yeah, no. If it's not about relationship, if it's about control, and by seeing that, but this is the hard thing because, I want to talk about control pictures. We talked a little bit about, when people find out your pictures, if they know your pictures, not all people, but some people that are into the control game, they find out the pictures, they find out what makes you tick, and then use that, they dangle it for you to jump through hoops, kind of dangling that carrot saying, okay, you do this, and, and then I'll give you my love. And so control pictures is where, it's with the agreement then becomes about control as opposed to, okay, are we showing up in this mutual agreement? Are our pictures matching? So it's very important if we do not have matching pictures. And with people, friends, loved ones, there comes a point where the pictures don't match anymore. So we have to decide, can we get out of that agreement? And getting out of the agreement, it's like, it doesn't mean that you have to, let's say, get divorced. I've been married 20, however many years. But, it's like, I'm burning that picture. I'm going to clear that picture. I'm not in agreement. And so that creates the boundary. I'm not going to do that anymore. And so when you decide that that is not a picture I want to match, that is not a picture I want to be in agreement to, then what you can do is you can clear that picture even by, I release it a lot. I just drop it into the center of the earth. I burn it in the center of the earth, because what that does then is it creates a lot of space in me. I can get it out of my body. Because what happens is when we get fired up, in those pictures and we want to fight, then we're engaged. And then it's running in us. Like this week, it's very interesting because I have a lot of Irish clients, and I was talking to a client and she was saying how they were all on a Zoom call. And it's kind of like it's like the energy starts amping up. And when the energy amps, I want you to be very aware. When the energy amps in any situation, what it does is it pulls you off the ground. And when you get pulled off the ground, not literally pulled, but energetically pulled off the ground, chaos starts happening. And she was saying, and I think too, in this time in Zoom, everyone's had this experience, maybe somebody hasn't, turned off the video, and so they're going to the bathroom or they're yelling at their kids or they're flipping out. And this kind of is happening to everyone. And so the energy starts to rise. Everyone gets ungrounded. And when that happens, it's kind of like energy start coming in. And we can feel this. Now, you may not be aware and you may not have heard it explained this way, but you can feel anxious. The anxiety starts to happen. It's like you can feel anxiety. It's kind of like if there's an earthquake, you can kind of feel something before it even happens. But in a situation, when the energy pitches, when some hysteria starts to happen, and people do this, it's kind of like when you look at even our country, hysteria starts to happen around a certain picture. People want you to look at a picture so they can grab your attention. So what are they going to do? They're going to raise the energy. They're going to get you ungrounded. And more important, what you want to do than anything is you want to feel grounded. You want to feel in your body. You want to feel safe, secure, stable, and supported. And so to do that, you think, okay, I'm just going to get into agreement to a picture. And here's another example. And this is what is happening. And this is the bullshit I want to call out, because some other client called me, and in a company that is like doing phenomenal now, some companies are thriving. They're making more money than ever. They just cut everyone's comp plan. And in doing that, they're spinning it. Oh, in this time, wait a minute. You're making more money than ever before. And then what they didn't do is they said, this is what it's going to be. Cut pay 50%. And in cutting the pay 50%, then it's like, okay, here's this new agreement. And it's not even they said, here's this new agreement. They didn't give you a choice. It's like, this is the plan. It starts this time. But there was no like, and so my client, I'm like, oh no, you're not in agreement. This is abuse. This is like, people, and we have to watch this in this time, because the mentality kind of, with the fear of I'm not going to have a job or I don't have money, that type of fear then, moves people into a position of where they are controlled. Well, I'm just going to have to be grateful. I have gratitude. So I'm just going to take a 50% pay cut when the company is going so high. And that's bullshit. Because we're not in agreement to that. We are in agreement to be seen. We are in agreement to be heard. And then, this is why you have to lead with your picture, because if you get ungrounded and that fear comes up, then you may go into agreement to something you really don't want. And, and when this fear comes up, this is where we can get programmed out of our information. What is picture? The picture is an intention. What is that? It's energy and information. And why do people kind of program us out of our pictures? It's because they want control. They want power. And so how do people, it's kind of like people want to do that because what is power? Well, resources. What is that? Energy. They want your energy. But if you're doing the EnergyWorks method, you know how to get your energy. How do you get your energy? And we haven't fully done all of this stuff in these weekly courses. So if you've missed the EnergyWorks courses, go on YouTube at KimberlySimo.com. You can look at the back classes. We go vertical. What is vertical? Well, I can tell you what, that making my relationship with Mother Earth is primary. Who's Mother Earth? People don't quite understand this. My relationship with God, first. What is God? Well, when you look at Mother Earth, God, it's God in form. Mother Earth is the reflection of God. This is what God looks like. Beauty, abundance. Like we see what God looks like. And so it's kind of like everyone's praying up, but it's like, this is where that communication was lost kind of long ago, especially with the Native Americans. I mean, my grandmother's Cherokee. And so, in her garden, the communication to the land, it is real. She is real. It is alive. And so when you are talking to her, I always kind of give my issue to her because what does she do? She's a great transformer. We're going to talk more about that though next time. But in doing that, then, I release or renew. I start to get renewed with the latest information for my body. I need that for my body because the only way, like a tree, and I'm always in the redwoods, how they grow, vertical. That means the energy moves up the roots. That means I'm connected to the sun, the living light, God, creator. And so relationship becomes extremely different. So I just want to see, just want to see if people have pictures. I want to just do a check-in to see if people let me just look here and see if people have pictures about any of this. Feeling stuck in my current job, yet last couple of weeks not getting the leads or sales numbers I usually get. Need some increased sales and commission. Okay, so we can use this as an example. That's the intention. And maybe you can text me what color is your intention. I'm seeing this beautiful color, so I'm assuming it's orange. A lot of orange has been coming up, a lot of kind of red orange in this past week. That is especially in this lower area of your belly, which is the womb. Even if you're a male, that area is saturated with sexual energy and creativity. And so that's the intention that you lead with. You have to have that out in front of you, that this is the intention, this is what I'm wanting. And so what I want you to then do, it's kind of send that up to the universe, kind of ask God, here's what I want. But on this lower level, it's like, I want you to ask a more even important question. It's like, what is coming up to release? Because for you to receive kind of these leads and this, what is showing up in your life that, isn't working quite now? This is what we talked about, these pictures that don't really work because in your position, in your job, it looks like things have changed. They probably cut your comp plan or hired in more people and started changing things and devalued you. And so it's very hard when you're in a situation and you're not seen, because then you have to work harder. Kind of what I'm seeing for you, it's too much energy out here, too much horizontal energy, doing too much, making more calls. I want you to pull it back more and I want you to like release, create more space within your body. How do you do that? Well, take even wanting more jobs and leads and all of that, what you need, and let go of it. Like really move it into Mother Earth, because when you move something down into Mother Earth, now you can get something manifested in physical form. And what's happening then is we have to really ground things and drop things for them to show up. And yesterday, a lot of things started showing up because I started dropping the energy. And I want you to just even imagine, kind of put those leads, put that energy into the planet, maybe about 8 feet, do it a foot, 8 feet, and just have the body start to match that. The body just matches it anyway. Like as soon as I said it, just kind of dropped it. And maybe for other people, kind of drop your intention down into the earth. And now I want you to connect your heartbeat to that intention, kind of as that wave moves down to the intention in this like cave in the earth. This cave is like the planet's womb. And then I want you to feel Mother Earth's heartbeat from her core, kind of moving into this creation in the earth, kind of where you want your creation to come into form, into birth. And you can feel kind of that, your intentions, like the diamonds come from the earth. And you can feel the heartbeat and the communication of both. Sometimes what happens if your intention is not quite coming in, it's because of this. It's because that, you feel things. We all feel things. You walk into a situation and it's like wave energy. You can feel the current moving. Like, when I'm reading people and seeing people, I'm like, I can see things corded into them, this current coming in. And if we have other people's currents, they get in on a picture. Okay, what does that mean? That means like one for me is that, especially in ninth grade, I didn't have friends. It was like these gangs. It was horrible. And I was being escorted to my class. And in that, there was so much pain and isolation. And I felt so unloved, unworthy. And then that's a picture. That starts to form a picture. And then people plug into it. You're not worthy, you're isolated, you're alone. And that's not the reality. But there's an opening there. And so then this current, people can sense it, feel it, and they'll plug right in. And so that's kind of what I do in sessions. I pull that stuff out and clear it, and then, create this energy flow where it's your current, because that's when we're alive, when we have this vertical. And so, when we experience these currents that come in and penetrate us, it means we don't have a boundary. This is why pictures are so important, intentions, pictures. It creates that boundary. And in that boundary, then, we can then create a new agreement. And so I don't even think I recorded this. Oh, well. Is there any more questions? Somebody else have a question? Maybe too on Instagram. Hi, Cecile. It's good to see you. Hey, Nicole. Hi. So if there is no more questions, thank you so much. You can keep texting. Thank you so much for joining, and I really appreciate donations as flow. And join me. I'm going to start sending the Zoom link out for my Moon Magic classes. I think I'm not sure, telecourse or what. I have an app for those. And on Sunday is the door to divinity. So that is an amazing space as far as moving through new doorways. kind of the endings and beginnings. It started as death and dying, and I do it with a client of mine who I helped her father move through a death process. And it's great because even a new client I helped last week, she was completely stuck, and her father had died a year ago, like her business stalled, everything was stuck, moved that out. And I'm telling you, within 4 days, it was like everything moved. So moving energy is where it's at. And so thank you so much, and sending my love. And all right, if there's nothing else, thank you guys, and thanks for joining. Bye.